This movie is incredible, so much fun, so huge congrats.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course. So my first question is for David. So to begin, I'm hoping that you could speak a little bit about your character, Brian, sort of who he is and what he is doing when the film starts.
So Brian is a bit of a loner. He hasn't got many friends or anyone to connect to, and he's an inventor who lives on a farm in the middle of North Wales and making these odd ideas of his that don't really work or have any use, but that's his little passion, making these inventions. Yeah. And then one day one of them works and hits a jackpot and Charles arrives, the robot. Yeah.
For Chris, so you play Charles, an artificially intelligent robot, and I'm curious what it was like for you to play a robot, both from a practical perspective and from a dramatic perspective.
Dramatically, I'm not entirely sure. Practically, it was definitely quite difficult. It really is just like being inside a cardboard box. So if you've ever experienced that, that's what it's like. So yeah, it's almost like being blindfolded. You can't really see anything. And I'd have to be moved into position. I had to listen to lots of directions from Jim to see if I was facing the right way. Yeah, it was a weird experience. And I guess dramatically, Charles goes through various stages of development, you could say, and from excitable to not quite as excitable. So it involved a lot of dancing, a lot of turning around and bumping into things, and I was mainly trying to not fall over.
Yeah, you do a lot of that, Chris, in the movie.
Yeah, there's a bit of finger wagging. Yeah.
Fantastic.
An array of moves. And that's one of my favorites.
Perfect. I'm sure a lot of trust too. I can't imagine like being in a cardboard box and just kind of being told where to go. So that is such a great answer.
And sometimes as well, I was just almost like waiting for something to happen. It felt like something was going to like hit the side of the box. So
yeah, and I really wanted something to happen. Ideally, I didn't really want to hold his hand and to walk him into another room. I just wanted to see Charles just bash into a door.
Face plank.
And then my next question is for David. So the film is a feature-length adaptation of the 2017 short film, and I'm curious what it was like to return to that world, that story, those characters, but this time in a feature-length capacity.
Yeah, I mean, really exciting. And what the lovely thing about it is that we're all friends. So we got to make a film, like four friends got to make a film together, really. And because we just felt like we'd been left alone to go up to Wales and, just make this film. So it was really exciting, and we really enjoy playing the characters. We had a lot of fun, and Jim's great to work with as director, really collaborative. So more than anything, it was just fun and exciting. And how the hell did we get away with this?
Yeah, a lot of times we couldn't believe we were doing it. We just thought, this can't be. We're going to get stopped at any moment and told that they've made a mistake.
That is so funny. Well, I mean, you never got stopped, and then look at you. You had that incredible reaction and response at Sundance and everything like that. And then for Chris, I'm curious, so this is kind of a two-parter. So firstly, where did you get the initial inspiration to sort of work on the 2017 short? And then what inspired you to revisit the story and then make it a feature?
Well, we looked at a few different documentaries for the short. At that time, we just wanted to film them doing anything really, because we used to perform it as a live show. We weren't really doing that anymore. So we just wanted to film them doing something. So we worked on a little short film idea and put it out there, not expecting anything more to happen. We just came up with lots of different story ideas, and I mean that was fun, just having lots of creative sessions where you're just talking about different story ideas, a lot of which could be just too ridiculous, or you know they couldn't work, but you come up with lots of different ideas. And to a point where you think you've got something that works structurally and that feels right. Yeah, so it was just took a lot of time, really.
David, I've got another question for you. So the film is so funny and it really has such an irresistible element of comedy throughout. So I'm curious, as both an actor and a writer of the film, how much of the dialogue is improvised versus written?
We definitely had a script which we stuck to, and we always I feel like each scene we made sure we got that down, the scripted dialogue, but we'd always give ourselves, hopefully, if we had time, some space to play as well. And I can't remember how, there are some scenes dotted in amongst the film that are entirely improvised. One scene might have said Brian takes Charles to the truck and they have an argument because Charles wants to sit in the front. I think it was, so we'd just improvise around that. We knew we didn't need any specific lines of dialogue there, so we just wanted to capture their behaviour rather than. So there are moments of improvisation, but we definitely stuck to a script as well. Yeah.
And then for Chris, so the movie has such a distinct style. It's so funny and it's shot in that comedic mockumentary fashion. And I'm curious what it was like for you to create and act in that space.
Well, I think we decided to go for the mockumentary style initially so that David could do lots of looks to camera, which are very funny, but also it's got an easy way to explain where you are in the film. You can easily get rid of lots of exposition just by saying what's happening. And it's just quite a good comedic way of doing things. And and I think the way Jim wanted to do it was making it a bit more like a modern documentary. So not trying to shy away from the old style of doing things and try and make it a bit more like a modern doc.
That's really fun. And then I just have one question left for each of you. So for David, I'm curious, Brian and Charles was deemed the funniest film at Sundance. What does it mean to you that the movie received such incredible praise and accolades?
Yeah, I can't believe it. Like Chris said earlier, when we did the short, we were expecting just to stick it on YouTube and then move on to the next idea. And so each step of the way has been sort of have to pinch yourself. And especially, winning the award at Sundance, I was walking out of the venue and they said, no, you need to stay back because I had a headache. And they said, oh, no, there's an award ceremony. I was like, is there? She said, yeah, you need to stay. Do I? So, yeah, we had no idea. Yeah, that was an amazing. So, yeah, it's just been,
That's
very, very
awesome.
fun.
What a fun way to be like, oh, no, you have to stay. Come back. So fun.
Yeah.
And then for Chris, I'm curious, what do you hope audiences will take away from viewing Brian and Charles?
Well, I think we started writing it just hoping that we could write something entertaining and hopefully funny. And we didn't really think anything more of it than that, really. So if they leave the cinema feeling good and happy and had a good time, then I feel like we've done our job.
Absolutely.
A warm feeling in their washing machine.
Oh, yeah, and a warm feeling in their tummy. That's whatever that means.
That is perfect. And definitely, I think what everybody needs right now is just a feel-good, funny movie to watch. My first question is for Jim. So I'm curious what it was like for you to return to the world of Brian and Charles for a feature-length film.
Yeah, it was great. It was just lovely. It's lovely to sort of just, to dive back into it, but just to expand it and just to see what more we could do with it. Because we made the short for such a small amount of money. We made it for £500 in just an Airbnb that we found that looked isolated.
With a bit of farmland around it.
With a bit it was just we I was just scrolling through Airbnb. So to suddenly be given if it's still a modest budget, but be given a budget and be right now we can just find exactly and build a world. Building a world is such an exciting thing to do, and finding the village and all that sort of stuff. So,
and then my next question is for Rupert. So sort of, could you speak to your involvement in the film and sort of what inspired you to join this project?
Well, I guess David Earl as Brian Gittins. I run a load of live shows back in London. He did my second ever gig, like 15 years ago, and I just fell in love with the character of Brian Gittins there and then, and offered him a residency. So he was doing the show every month for like 5 years. So, you know, we became friends through that first and foremost, and just loved sort of similar style of comedy. And then he started doing a sort of internet radio show, and I wanted to sort of be part of it, but I was sort of too nervous to talk. So I found a sort of bit of software to pretend to be a robot and talk through that. And that was the sort of birth of Charles, really. And then it sort of grew and grew, and we started doing live stuff together with Charles on stage. And then that was sort of going really well. And we were like, oh, we should get this sort of on film, really. So that was the journey. It was sort of over quite a period of time. But yeah, live is the sort of background to the relationship.
Yeah, you sort of created Charles, essentially.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, you're the real inventor, I guess. That is so
I've
cool.
got my headset on here, you just can't see it.
That is so cool. What a great story. And then my next question is for Jim. So the film has such an infectious comedic style, and it really is just an incredibly heartwarming story, you know, about friendship, family, finding love, letting go, and all of those really powerful themes. And I'm curious, can you speak to how you infused those themes throughout the film?
Yeah, I'm always sort of interested in like I love comedy and just like making people laugh, but I always just like always like putting the emotional side into things. Like when we made the short, we had so many like different reactions to it that how people related to it. We just like wanted to just expand on that. And I always think like things are funnier things are like you can connect with emotion more if you like make people laugh first. I think it sort of like opens a door, if you know what I mean. So like it's those kind of things I think always fuse really well. So, and also I hadn't seen many comedies that have done that in that sort of way before, I think, in the sort of like darkness and light in sort of British comedy. So yeah, I was just sort of excited to do something like that.
And then for Rupert, I'm curious, were there any like unexpected challenges that you ran into while you were filming the movie?
Not unexpected, because we were sort of operating in COVID times. So, I mean, and also at the sort of when everyone was allowed to suddenly come back and shoot for the first time after like 8 months, that was quite interesting because everyone was sort of trying to work out what a COVID marshal's job was and all those sort of interesting things.
We weren't vaccinated either then. That was like we did it pre-vax times. So that
was very challenging. And also just the sort of terrain and where we were filming, you know, even just sort of practicalities of getting trucks down sort of long, you know, bumpy lanes and the remoteness of it. But
we had like one of the night shoot days we just didn't get lights for like 3 hours.
Oh God, yeah.
We just like sat there in the dark.
The bonfire scene, we had to wait to shoot for 3 hours.
Yeah, like the DP was just like stressed, like tearing his hair out, like because it needed to be isolated. But like we maybe went too isolated.
I wouldn't say it was like a tricky shoot. It was it was a nice shoot in that I think literally the first 2 weeks was just David and Chris really. So it was a nice sort of ease in before and a bit of Hazel. So it was just quite a nice way to ease into it. It wasn't a tricky production.
No.
For Jim, I'm curious, is there a particular scene that you're most looking forward to audiences seeing?
There is one. Yeah, I don't know if I want to. There's one near the end that like I always like the reaction to. The sort of the climax of the film without saying what it is.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'll speak in code. There's the sort of climax of the film. I'm always really proud of that bit because we sort of felt, because we edited it and in lockdown and didn't get to show it to anyone or see it with anyone that wasn't involved in the film. We never like heard that reaction or like knew how big it was going to be. So to hear it in the cinema has been great, and just start to hear like how big a reaction said secret moment gets. It's great.
I'm sure, like finally seeing audiences react to something you worked so hard on, I'm sure is such a rewarding and like full circle moment. And then for Rupert, I'm curious, what do you hope audiences will take away from watching the film?
I think ultimately just to come away feeling uplifted and had a bit of escapism, and as you can through comedy, just sort of forget about everything for a while. I think that's the nicest sort of reaction.
Yeah.
Also want to see people sort of physically jump in the air and punch like that, just like that.
Yeah. Everyone.
And it freeze frames and it's slow motion.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I want.
For Jim, I'm curious, how did you find that this experience with Brian and Charles differed creatively than your experience was in 2017?
I mean, creatively, I still felt like we managed to get a balance of having the same kind of freedom that we had when making the short. I mean, obviously, like, we had a lot more stuff we could do now, so we had sort of more resources and money to sort of elevate stuff to another level. And also, like, working with a bigger crew can sometimes hamper you, but we tried to keep it kind of. I guess what was different was just like the opportunity to just really build and like build that world more, and just like let's see, like, Brian's an inventor. Okay, let's go see everything. Like, let's make that invention shed feel like really lived in, and when get a drone, do some drone shots, stuff like that.
That was the bit you enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
For Rupert, so the film received such incredible praise and accolades from Sundance, being noted the funniest film at Sundance, among other incredible accolades. I'm curious, did you ever predict that this film would be received like that? And then, like, what do those accolades mean to you?
No, I'd be mad if I predicted that. But I just sort of, I think even just harking back to the short, we were just some friends who wanted to make a short film. We weren't like, I mean, we are ambitious, but we weren't like, right, let's do this, and then the next plan is a feature. It was all very sort of organic how it grew. So yeah, it's just nice to see it sort of that happen organically, and it's a strange experience, isn't it, getting it out into the world? But the fact that people receive it so well is so lovely.
We didn't expect anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even expect Sundance. Like, that's just like, well, was the dream.
Yeah, we sort of everything was in a stage, wasn't it? So like, oh well, we've done that now, so it's Sundance, and then you're like, that'll do.
Yeah,
and then sort of other people start watching it.
Yeah, if we just stopped at Sundance, we would have been pretty content.
Or just happy that we got a script.
Got a script commission.
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah.
I just have one final question for each of you. So my first question here, for Jim, I'm curious if you have a favorite memory on set from filming.
Do you know what I really liked? There was a scene where, like, Charles, like, we had like an issue where, like, we couldn't film through the back window because it was blacked out. So we had to, like, put Charles in the front seat. But, like, that was never, like, that didn't make sense for the logic of that scene, because it's like, why Brian's trying to hide Charles, why would he put him on the front seat? So we just had to create a scene from, like, thin air. We just improvised the scene on the day just to explain that. And it ended up being, like, such a funny scene, and, like, it's kind of one of the main scenes in the film of them bickering. And so sort of discovering that, I mean, that's probably my favourite.
I just liked watching Chris in a box trying to ride a bicycle. that for me, because obviously we only showed a bit of it, but it was really funny watching David steer him and Jim directing. Like, what the hell? Because that was a really early idea, wasn't it? We just wanted to see Charles on a bicycle. It was just funny to me suddenly filming that. That for me was like, here we go.
Yeah.
My final question is for Rupert. Why should audiences go see Brian and Charles?
Just for a good old giggle, I think. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Just to have a nice time, bit of escapism, and have a laugh and tell 50 of their friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, yes. Well, that is all the time I have. I want to thank you both so much for your incredible answers and for your time. It was such an honor to meet you, and huge congratulations again on the film.
Thank you so much. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks so much.